Hello, Tigers. My name is Todd McCubbin. On behalf of the MIZZOU Alumni Association, I'm pleased to welcome you to another installment of MIZ Talks. These virtual events allow us to showcase remarkable Tigers to a worldwide audience. And thanks for joining us this evening. I'm here in my office, the world headquarters of the MIZZOU Alumni Association, right in the heart of campus. And it's great to have you with us tonight for a very special edition of MIZ Talks. The program you're about to enjoy is made possible by the members of our MIZZOU Alumni Association. Not only do our members make MIZZOU stronger, but their dues and their charitable gifts allow us to host virtual events like this one, in addition to supporting scholarships and connecting our alumni and preserving our favorite traditions at MIZZOU, like homecoming, and hopefully in a few weeks, a great senior send-off for our graduates. To our association members watching tonight, thank you very much. You're among my favorite MIZZOU alums. We appreciate your support. And if you're not a member, join is very easy. Please go to mizzou.com/join to learn more. We'd love to have you be a member of our association. Well, like I said, tonight's a very special evening. This is our MIZZOU Leads series. So we're going to talk to a lot of our great leaders on campus. And I'm excited to introduce you and bring in our great friend to the MIZZOU Alumni Association in just a minute, and a leader of our university, a great leader of our university, and someone who is dying to get out and see more of our alumni once things kind of settle here with the pandemic. But President Moon Choi joins us this evening. And before I bring him in, let me give you a few quick instructions. There will be time for Q&A this evening. So if you have a specific question, please click Ask a Question button at the bottom of the page, and you can put your question there. If you're watching on Facebook Live tonight, you can submit your questions to the comment section and we'll pick them up. But please go ahead and submit your questions as you think of them, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. So just a few words about President Choi to get us started. Moon Choi has been with the University of Missouri since 2017. He now serves in a dual role as president of the system and chancellor of the University of Missouri. President Choi has a 25-year career in higher education, beginning at the University of Illinois at Chicago, before later joining Drexel University as the department head of mechanical engineering and mechanics. He then went to serve in numerous leadership roles at the University of Connecticut. He served as provost and finally as executive vice president at UConn before coming to Missouri. Upon his arrival in Columbia, Curator David Steelman remarked, Moon Choi is bringing an overarching strategic vision to the university that we have not seen in my lifetime. And I'm honored that tonight we get to talk more about that vision and really appreciate the time. So please welcome in the president of the University of Missouri, Dr. Moon Choi. Dr. Choi, welcome. I think we have you on mute real quick there. We need to. There we go.
So, Todd, thank you. It's great to join you and all of the Tigers from all around the country and around the world that care deeply about this university. And it is truly an honor for me to serve in this position. And in my position as Chancellor at MIZZOU, we are committed to achieving excellence, beginning with student success, research breakthroughs that make a difference to the lives of Missourians and beyond, and the type of engagement and service that make our communities and society better. So I'm very excited to work with so many stakeholders, the 30,000 students, the 5,000 faculty and staff, and the 300,000 living alums of the university that love this university. So thank you for hosting me.
Well, it's awesome to have you. And I know our alums are probably fired up to know that you're in the beautiful chancellor's office in Jesse Hall, maybe a place they haven't seen for a little longer than they're used to, or
right.
They're joining from out of state or maybe out of the country they haven't seen in a long time. So they can put that picture in their mind of the quad at Jesse Hall and how that looks. And, you know, as we get started, one of the things that I thought I would start off with is that I was doing some research to talk about today, and I was looking back at March 18, 2020. And that was the day that I got a message from you and campus leadership about making the flip to virtual and working from remote from home and all those sort of things. And I guess just, you know, as we kind of dive into some of that, I just wonder, you know, that was new to all of us. There's no doubt about it. But as a university leader, as someone who was kind of walking through that, I know it brought back a lot of memories and sort of feelings for me just to read some of those email messages a year later. What was it like for you going through that point, just a year ago tonight?
Well, it was going into the unknown because there were so many things about the COVID pandemic that we did not know. For example, at that time, how mask usage would reduce the transmission of COVID. And when we decided to pivot to remote operation this time last year, remember, we only had one case of a student that came back from overseas from a trip to Italy as part of study abroad. And based on that and the concern that the town of Columbia had that led to the lockdown, we decided it was in the best interest of the health of our community to go to remote, where we had families not interact with other families and people outside of their family for fear of that transmission. And so to reduce the transmission likelihood, we asked our faculty, staff, and students to stay home. Now, what resulted in our ability to meet the needs of teaching and research was a complete transformation of the way we deliver our courses. And we were concerned whether the technology would hold up, and we were concerned whether our faculty members had the interactions with the computing platforms needed to deliver the course remotely. But it all worked out. And yes, we've had some ups and downs, but what really sustained us is that commitment by our faculty to provide the best education possible for our students. And now we are reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah, the way we've been able to really adapt and succeed through this process and everything that we've learned, which I want to ask you about in just a little bit, has been remarkable, frankly, and it's certainly due to not only yourself, but a lot of great leaders around campus and faculty and staff, and our students have been phenomenal as well as we've worked through this process. One of the things we take maybe for granted a little bit is the role that MU healthcare plays in any normal time, but certainly when you're going through something like this. But they've been a real partner and a real leader in this success that we've been able to have navigating this difficult time. Talk a little bit about MU healthcare and what an important resource that is for our community, our state, and even beyond.
Absolutely. And MU Healthcare is such a large part of our organization here at MIZZOU. And their operating budget is about $1.1 billion. In order to sustain the excellent healthcare that we provide, we need to have the revenues. We need to see the patients and treat the patients. But when we needed to have the testing capabilities, they quickly pivoted and provided partnerships with our College of Veterinary Medicine so that we can offer more testing capabilities for mid-Missouri. And you may know that our hospital serves 25 counties in mid-Missouri. So it's much more than Columbia. And within a span of a few days to a week, they were able to launch a drive-through testing site near the softball stadium. And I stopped by to thank the workers, excellent healthcare workers. And during that trip, there was a person that drove in from St. Louis and another person that drove in from Joplin to get tested. So when we say that we have a statewide reach, we really mean it. And it really came through in the way that we supported the community by reducing the number of surgeries that we perform, which means lost revenue, but having the beds ready so that in case there was a surge in COVID cases, we can treat our patients. So very proud of the work that our hospital specialists as well as our frontline workers did to support mid-Missouri.
Well, that work certainly continues. I know we have some pictures of the opportunities we have over at the football stadium on the east side, and certainly with the partnership with athletics to now be the really like a mass vaccination site that almost every couple of weeks we're sending thousands of people through there to get their vaccine, and that's been a real win for this area and certainly for the state. But just a lot of great partnerships to make this happen and to kind of get us through this time.
Yes, and if you do see them, if you see some of our frontline workers, please thank them for what they do, the sacrifices that they made to keep all of us safe and healthy. that sacrifice is greatly appreciated.
Well, you've led the university through a difficult time, and you've taken on a dual role with the campus and the system. And in fact, the new role is the first major leadership restructure for the UM system since I believe it was created in 1963.
That's
and so
right.
we're kind of in uncharted territories from that perspective. But can you talk more about your role and what are some of the benefits and challenges you've seen about 6-8 months in to this point?
Well, the benefit is that we now have clear alignment of the system priorities, which is to meet the mission of the University of Missouri. And that is to conduct the research that benefits our citizens, but ensuring that our engagement and education are top notch. And for us to have that clear line of agreement with the campus and the system has been immensely helpful. In addition to that, we're able to reduce costs. And a cost of an administrator and a administrative leadership structure, eliminating that from MIZZOU saved us about $1.5 million going forward. And when you add up this $1.5 million with that $1.5 million, we're talking about funds that can be used for scholarships for students. And I always remind our constituents and our supporters that each $10,000 represents scholarship for an in-state Missouri student. And so that is really sobering to know that with $1 million, we can support 100 Missouri students that are deserving to get the education at the University of Missouri.
Well, and MIZZOU plays such a critical role for Missouri, no doubt, but the region and even the country, and it being the only public land grant flagship, AAU institution in the state. When we say all that together, I think sometimes it's hard for students or even our alumni to really kind of understand what that means because they just know MIZZOU or they know Missouri for that matter. As you think about that combination, maybe how unique that is and how important that is. How do you explain that to the public in terms of what a jewel we have with what we have here at the University of Missouri?
It is a jewel, and I think it's human nature to at times take that jewel in your backyard for granted, and we're all guilty of that from time to time. But here at MIZZOU, some of the research and education programs that we are pursuing are world class. And when we have visitors coming to the university and seeing for the first time the immense contributions that we make through the nuclear research reactor, and for us to say that we help improve and save lives, that is not an empty slogan. There are literally thousands of people that get treated with the radioisotopes that we create each and every day here at the nuclear research reactor that is extending the life of a liver cancer patient, a pancreatic cancer patient, or saving a dog that has bone cancer. And these are connections to people because that person that we save using Lutathera, our drug that we manufacture currently with Novartis, we're saving someone who has pancreatic cancer, and that's somebody's mother or somebody's father or brother. And so that's the kind of impact that we have. And, I keep sharing with everyone that I know here at MIZZOU, go out and tell that story. Yeah. Don't be bashful because what you're doing is that important.
No, it's so true. And I think sometimes the Midwest modesty plays in it. I know Marshall Stewart and I have talked a little bit about that. Folks out around the state, they're proud of this institution. There's no doubt about it. But we've got to continue to arm them to be advocates and ambassadors for our University of Missouri. And
right.
One of the stories you tell right there is perfect because that's something that people really wouldn't realize. And we've got to continue to share that loudly and proudly about our university. As we think about, some of the challenges and some of the changes that have taken place during the pandemic, and as it relates to higher education, some of the long-lasting impacts. What are some of the lessons we've taken away, and what are some things that are going to probably stick with us and have forced us because of the disruption to really change our model?
Right, and some of the changes that we're seeing now and that I project into the future, I would not have counted on. I mean, for example, we heard so many times before the pandemic how this generation of students who are coming to the university are so tied to social media and the electronic means of communication. But what we realized is that those same students wanted to have the interaction, the face-to-face interaction. And so when we announced that we will be opening with face-to-face interaction, with courses, laboratories, and for students who live in dormitories together, there was a tremendous sigh of relief. And as the semester went on, we heard from parents that asked for more interaction opportunities. And so we began to reduce the restrictions that allowed students to be able to sit together in the residence hall and study together. Maybe there's a plexiglass barrier in the dining room where they're studying together or eating together. And now that the cases have been reduced even more, we're now able to have higher occupancy programs, whether it's in the classroom or for meeting or student activities. And so that desire by students and parents to have their children interact in that face-to-face environment is something that's going to stay with us. And I'm really proud of our faculty and instructors for rising to the occasion and doing what they can to protect themselves, but at the same time, providing that world-class education. So that will continue.
Well, you can correct me on my memory here. I remember hearing this in one of our leadership team meetings that I think this semester, 43% of our classes are in person. 43%, another 43% have an in-person component.
That's right.
So almost, 85 to 90% of our classes have an in-person component or are in person, which I don't think the normal person who isn't here on a daily basis would know that or understand that.
That's right.
But that's pretty remarkable considering what we were dealing with last fall.
It is. And we're very proud of those percentages. And in the fall, we are going to have normal occupancy. Yep. And not only in the classroom, but the announcement yesterday that we're going to fill the stadium at Faurot Field is really exciting. And yes, we want to have sold out games at football, basketball, sold out concerts so that we can regain some of the opportunities to celebrate together with our friends and family.
Yeah, there was a buzz around the office today about that announcement, and what it meant for some of the folks in our world is that means, we can have events like Tiger Walk and welcome our students back to campus en masse. We can have a homecoming parade that's one of the largest ones in the country, and all those great traditions that surround all the things you're talking about. That's one of the things I think we've taken for granted. I told our staff back in the fall, I'm never going to complain about a 4:30 wake-up call on homecoming Saturday to get out there to that parade route because I missed it so much this year. There's no doubt about it.
Yes, and think about how special the homecoming is going to be this year for the class of 2020 and the class of 2021. And, we felt for them because of the dramatic challenges that they faced. Boy, were they troopers. They rose to the occasion and stayed positive. So we're very proud of them. And we want to celebrate them during homecoming weekend in 2021.
Absolutely. I'm going to have you put your overall higher education hat on because I know you're super focused on University of Missouri and
Right.
MIZZOU. And, I must say this, having been here for 25 years plus, I've never seen a tighter connection between the system campuses that we have today in terms of how we all work together with UMKC and UMSL and Missouri S&T. But broadly, in terms of higher education, what's sort of the landscape? What are you hearing from your colleagues around the country about some of the changes, the pandemics, worries, concerns,
Sure.
just as an overall industry?
Sure. Recently, there was a survey conducted by American Council of Education, and the survey focused on presidents and their biggest concerns, the things that keep them up at night. And it wasn't financial. It wasn't declining enrollment. It was mental health and counseling services needed by students and faculty and staff, because we all went through some dramatic challenges, and not being able to interact physically in many cases with our colleagues and fellow students have taken a toll. And so investing in those areas at the university is key, and investing in counseling services that can be provided through electronic means, which means that the stigma associated with perhaps walking in to a counseling center as opposed to doing that in the privacy of your home through Zoom will make it that much easier for people to seek the help that they need. But we're also very proud of our department chairs and our faculty members who are calling their colleagues and their students to see how they're doing. Normally, during a normal semester, many of the students would come in and talk to the professors or the department chair during office hours, but we don't have that same luxury now. So it really made me appreciate our faculty for reaching out and checking up on students to see if they're doing okay.
Right.
And I know that means a lot to our students.
Well, one of the big goals I know you've had since you've arrived is to build a more inclusive environment and excellence in that area here at the university. Can you talk more about what that change means for MIZZOU and our overall community in terms of trying to build that environment we really want to see from an inclusion standpoint here?
We have so many faculty, staff, and students at this university that want to create that environment that is diverse, inclusive, and equitable. And just like the challenges that we're facing in society or other universities, those are the same challenges that we face here. But it's not for lack of trying. And then what really at the heart of the issue really remains our individual approach to make sure that we are creating that environment. So asking ourselves each and every day, what can I do as they begin their day to make this more inclusive? What can I do to make it more equitable and more diverse? And it is not just the job of one administrator or department chair or a student leader. It really does take the village to get to that level. But when we demonstrate that we want to improve the university by becoming more empathetic, more understanding, and trying to put ourselves in the shoes of the other person that we're interacting with, that approach I know will lead to a better university, a more inclusive university. So it's something that we have to strive for. It's not a checklist. It's something that we strive for each and every day.
Yeah, I often tell people, I think one of the reasons why I love this place so much is because just my own personal story from that perspective came from a small community in Missouri, and I got to come to a big university with students and faculty and staff from everywhere, all over the world, not just all over Missouri, and having a chance to ask questions, having a chance to get to know other cultures, other belief systems, all those sort of things. It really made me fall in love with higher education as a whole, as an industry, and I think it just makes such a difference in our society. There's no doubt about that. And it's not easy in terms of bringing all those folks to one place and having them go through, education, but it's so important. And I know a lot of people are working hard on that inclusion piece for MIZZOU.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that. Mm-hmm.
So we just announced something that we're pretty excited about. I think a lot of people are. You mentioned a little bit earlier, but it's wonderful to hear that MIZZOU has announced a safe approach, if you will, to an in-person commencement coming up for both the class of 2021 and also the class of 2020. We're going to bring those folks back and give them the chance to walk and get their diploma. And so what can we expect from that? And talk about the decision there, because I know this was a real passion issue for you.
It was because we wanted to celebrate our graduates, and we made a promise to the 2020 graduates that they would have their own ceremony. We're not going to lump it together with a graduating class from 2021. So their commencement celebration will be during the last week of April. And in many cases, these celebrations that we're going to be having is going to be repeated a number of times. When I looked at the schedule, for example, the College of Art and Sciences, they're going to have 4 separate ceremonies on the same day. That means that the dean has to come up with very inspiring speeches that she can change each of those 4 times. But, Dean Oker is an English professor, so I know she can do it. But it was really important to give that special day and to enable our students to invite 6 family and friends, not just 2, but 6. We didn't want them to select between family and friends. Let's get family and friends. And it's going to be a terrific, terrific celebration during those 3 weekends.
Yeah, so we're flip-flopping those between MIZZOU Arena and Hearn Center, if I understand right, correct? And so we're using both those spaces. And I've had a chance to serve on the committee that's kind of talked through it a little bit. I've listened more than I've helped that committee because it's been such a great job with Brenda Selman, our registrar, and Dr. Jim Spain, and all the great folks that are talking about it. And then our units obviously has such a huge role, like you talk about, in planning their own ceremonies. But it's going to be special to spread those out, but also do them safely and have people come back and have that experience. And so I know you led the charge to make that happen. So thank you so much. And that'll mean a lot to our new graduates. I want to go to an audience question real quick. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, I was going to say the people that led the charge, Brenda Solomon,
yep.
Jim Spain, the deans, and Provost Ramchan. And I'm going to grab some water.
You got it.
So I'm going to be right back.
You got it. I know a lot of you are putting your questions, giving your questions to us. Please fill those in. We're getting ready to ask some audience questions. We appreciate your patience, and we have some good ones. And we're going to lead off with one. It comes from Chris. Chris came to the U.S. to attend graduate school and has made MIZZOU his home. And he asked for advice on how to tap into resources to be mentored and really leverage his degree. So you might have been through this once or twice in your life, so you probably have a good feel for that. So how would you answer Chris's question?
Yeah, well, my experience came about 30 years ago, so it's outdated. But I'm going to give you the same advice that I gave to my 2 sons who are in graduate school. And that is, graduate school, like college, is an opportunity to expand your horizon. So no matter what you're studying, expand and explore what is available at that university and that community. So you may be studying mechanical engineering in your master's degree, but attend the seminars that occur in the School of Law on constitutional democracy, or attend a philosophy course on the philosophy of some influential Enlightenment thinkers, because you're not going to have another opportunity to explore intellectually that you have now in graduate school. And mentorship can happen directly, where you identify a mentor-mentee relationship, but it can also occur by observing different people and seeking the characteristics and their actions and learning from it, both good and bad. And so observe, explore, and expand your horizons in graduate school. And always go see the graduate dean, Jenny Hart, and her colleagues to ask, what are some programs that are available for proposal writing, teaching effectiveness, networking, and see the faculty members and students in your own college to ask for the same advice. So good luck.
That's fantastic. And, one of the things I found out we just finished up our MIZZOU 39 and MIZZOU 18. So 39 outstanding seniors, 18 outstanding graduate and professional students. The Alumni Association has a special program to recognize those. Just going through that interview process, what I found is mentoring is really embedded in the MIZZOU culture. There's a lot of ways it happens. Some of it's formal, some of it's informal, but almost everyone that came through those interviews, it had some sort of mentoring relationship or set up that way. We have a great MIZZOU mentoring program. It's a large program through the Alumni Association. Chris, we'd be happy to help you. But I do think it's a big part of our culture, and it's something that I think can really help students here at MIZZOU. So another question from Bill Thompson. This is a question as it relates to the federal stimulus. It says, what are the anticipated effects of the new federal stimulus bill that has been approved on MIZZOU?
So this is from Bill Thompson, former curator and former CEO and chairman of PINCO. And I just saw him yesterday on a Zoom call. And so what is the anticipated effect of the new federal stimulus? We expect, as part of the $1.9 trillion stimulus package, to receive about $44 million at the University of Missouri here in Columbia. and the rest of the other universities will receive the balance that totals $100 million. And for the $44 million that we receive at MIZZOU, half of it will be designated for student support, scholarships, and other work-study programs and so forth. And the other half is used for operations or other costs that we've incurred because of COVID. And so it's going to be very helpful for this current fiscal year and fiscal year 22. But it's very important for us to realize that this is one-time funds. So after we spend it, it is not replenished, so that we don't actually expend those amounts on permanent needs that we have at the university, so that we prepare for a new fiscal reality when the stimulus program is over. So we're going to be very careful in how we allocate and really invest in programs that are going to have that return on that investment.
Appreciate that question, Bill. And it kind of just as a follow-up, just that I'm interested in terms of giving people an update. I mean, you've really been a key cog in the wheel to our relationship with the state legislature in Jeff City and the governor's office. And quick update there, because that's such an important relationship. And we know that they've been very supportive of MIZZOU and want to continue to encourage them to be supportive. And so how are things going in Jeff City with the session, and what's your take from that perspective?
The session is going very well. The governor's budget has us recovered at the level that he proposed back in January of 2020, a year ago. And so that is a very positive step. We expect to get another $10 million for Next Gen Precision Health, to answer the question from Rusty, and I'll get back to that.
Yeah.
In addition, this year, there is a bill that is being considered in the House floor that will modify the tuition cap. In the state of Missouri, we have a bill called Senate Bill 389, which limits the increase of tuition essentially to inflation, CPI. But what that does is that it does not allow us to then charge a tuition that is fair and a charge a tuition that will allow us to get the net tuition revenue to invest into programs. So having low tuition is a very important objective, but having a low tuition that doesn't allow the university to invest in faculty and advisors. And what that does, without those key elements, then the class sizes get larger, or the classes are not offered when the students need them to graduate. So in that effect, lower tuition may lead to longer time to graduation. So it's the tuition times the time to graduation that's the key factor, not just the tuition itself. So we believe that this year we may get some support for modifying Senate Bill 389.
That's a great point to make to our alums. And I'll just say this, and we from an advocacy perspective, a lot of that advocacy from alumni is at home. And so when you have a chance to visit with your state rep or state senator, you just got a great explanation of a couple of really important issues to the University of Missouri. And just to know that you are a University of Missouri supporter, that you're watching and listening to these sort of things, and that we're a priority in terms of how you think about higher education is always important. You don't have to be super knowledgeable about these sort of things to have these conversations, but I think when you're at home and you have that opportunity to have those conversations, I always encourage alumni. That's a great way to support the University of Missouri, is just your verbal advocacy for a higher education with your state elected officials. So you just got a course there with some of the things that are important for us in Jeff City, and that's why it was important to hear that. So you mentioned Rusty. Rusty's one of our board members, Rusty Martin, Colorado, and a great volunteer. And he asked a great question because it's something I know we're really excited about here at the University of Missouri. But can you provide us an update on the Next Gen Precision Health Institute?
So yes, Rusty and everyone who was on this call, mark down October 19th, 2021. So that's going to come, what is it? Is it 7 months from now? And that is when we're going to have the grand opening of this beautiful space. Now, beautiful space to do research without researchers is just a beautiful space. But our goal is to continue to hire world-class faculty members working in working in precision health. For example, we were able to recruit Dr. Russ Waitman from KU, and he is a world-renowned expert on using data analytics to provide better healthcare to our patients. And using the massive amounts of data that exist in EMRs throughout the country, he is able to then pinpoint what treatment will work best based on the person's genetics, as well as their lifestyle and the environment in which they live in, so that there will be less of a trial and error approach, but a personalized approach based on those three factors. So when that person suffers from cardiac disease or suffers from a neurological disease, he'll be able to mine the incredible amount of data that's out there on treatments that work for people with the same characteristics as patient A, so that that treatment is more likely to work for that patient A. We also recruited Dr. Carolyn Anderson from University of Pittsburgh, and her expertise is in nuclear medicine. So this ties in very well to the nuclear research reactor. And we signed a very important partnership agreement with AAA, which is a Novartis company. And we are going to develop the isotopes that serve as essentially the engine for a new class of cancer treatment drugs to be used for breast cancer and prostate cancer. But it's not going to stop there. We want to address blood cancer, leukemia, breast cancer, brain cancer. And so the opportunities are limitless based on the creative talent that we're recruiting and the facilities like NextGen and the nuclear research reactor. So Rusty, in fact, October 16th, we're playing Texas A&M. So come for the weekend and stay for the grand opening.
That'd be a good weekend to come see a great new facility, really a game changer in a lot of ways, and watch us beat the Aggies, right? That'd be a fun weekend. Rusty's going to be here for our board meeting here in April, and I was working with our president of our Alumni Association, Robin Winokur, and we were going to tour the NextGen facility. We're going to have a chance to go over and check it out. We're looking forward to taking our board through and seeing what's going on there. I think one of the things that's most exciting for me as a lifelong Missourian, Marshall Stewart and I talked about this on his MIZ talk, is that how this so much focuses on the health of our Missourians, and how this is a perfect example of the mission of the University of Missouri, and it all just works together for us to be able to attack the things that are most important to our citizens. And no one's better able to do this than the University of Missouri, and it's a very bold initiative, and it's exciting to see it come out of the ground. It's a beautiful building. And it's an exciting thing to have happen here in Columbia.
It is.
Hey, so recently, yourself and Provost Ramchan recently announced that some departments in human environmental sciences would be relocated to other schools and colleges. So as you thought through that process, and I know it was a long process with conversation, what's the gain by these consolidations, and how are you thinking about that from just a leadership perspective?
Let me first say that the departments in HES are all very strong departments, and the leadership from prior deans, especially Dean Smith, who we so appreciate for developing the strong programs that are in HES. What our focus was to see the synergies that can be made possible by realigning and restructuring. And the departments that are in HES had an opportunity to work with different departments in different colleges to see where that synergies can be matched. So how do we take strong programs and make it even stronger by bringing in the departments from HES that elevates both units? And the collaboration opportunities with personal financial planning with the School of Business and Department of Applied Social Sciences in Kaffner is tremendous. And so that kind of move will elevate both units. And that was the reason that we decided to make that change. But I can't thank the leadership of deans like Dean Smith and Dean Jorgensen enough for creating the strong programs in HES.
Very good. Well, on this portion of the MIZ talks, we love to talk about MIZZOU leads. In other words, I like to talk to our great leaders around campus, and so I'm interested. MIZZOU prides itself on really building leaders in a lot of ways, and so as we showcase these MIZZOU made alumni that are out there around the world doing amazing things, and a lot of our great leaders on campus, what are leadership characteristics you think are most important as you just think about leadership in a broad sense?
I've been thinking about this a lot, especially trying to lead this university with other capable leaders at the university during the past year.
Yep.
And we were thrown a set of circumstances that none of us were really prepared to deal with, especially in a vacuum of information about what this pandemic was going to wreak upon the community and the university and so forth. And, in my reflection and discussions with others, I realized that leadership really takes a belief in the mission. Leadership also takes courage, because being a leader at times is not a popularity contest. We all want to be liked. Who doesn't? But when we put that institutional hat on, and the institution, this great institution, is supported by the taxpayers to a tune of $400 million per year, as well as students and parents who pay the tuition to attend this university. So when the decisions that we make affect our institution profoundly, we always ask, what is in the best interest of Missourians and the students, as well as the faculty and staff who contribute to this university? And we can't forget the 300,000 living alums that care deeply about this university. So, I have over 6.5 million constituents.
Yeah.
And they all have advice for me. Each have an advice for me about how to run the university. And in the end, I have to put all of those things together, try to gather the courage to do the difficult things that we need to do. But it becomes easier when I know that I believe in the mission of the university. And student success, research, and engagement is pretty simple. And we're going to be using that as a barometer of where we're going to be making investments and where we're going to be divesting. Because in this new paradigm shift that we're going to see in higher education, we just can't be all things to all people. And to achieve excellence, we have to prioritize and pick strategic priorities for that investment.
Well, it's well said. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I know you've given a lot of thought to it. And I know that certainly in this environment we're in, it's been so difficult with so many things happening. And while I think the mission is simple to think through, these concepts are not. When you do have so many different things coming at you, it's a complex organization. You mentioned the advice you get to running the university, as I tell our team all the time, and I remind myself that any sort of advice we get from alumni and friends comes from a place of passion. They love this place, and they want to see it do very, very well. And so we certainly take that in the right vein. There's no doubt about that. And I know you do as well. And so, hey, we got a great question that came in. I thought was really well done. This is from Dr. Ari Burnett. He's one of our alums at DC. Oh, yeah. He's the dean of one of the nation's war colleges at the National Defense University. And he notes the role of critical thinking, scientific evidence and logic, and the role of the expert is critical in the creation of national security leaders. So his question is, what are your ideas to advance MU's role as a research university in an age of growing skepticism for the role of the expert, if you will?
Great question, Dean Burnett. And, when I think about the role of research at the University of Missouri, I think back to President Jesse, and I sit in Jesse Hall. President Jesse was appointed in 1891, and he came with the concept of modernizing this university, which up until at that time followed the classics approach, where the classics were used as the foundation of higher education. But he became enamored with the German approach of using research and focusing on the graduate education in addition. And so he moved the university away from the classics approach to the elective approach that we have now. And about a year after he joined the university in 1892, the building for which the columns provided the foundation burned down, January 9th, 1892. You can imagine how devastated he was when that happened, because that was where the auditorium was. That was where the College of Arts and Sciences were located in the major classroom. But undeterred, he and the board made a request to the state legislature for $600,000 in advancement. And through that, the University of Missouri was charged, the leaders were charged to recreate the university. But instead of just rebuilding the old buildings or burnt out buildings, he had a fresh vision. And during his tenure, over 16 years, this university's enrollment grew by a factor of 4. The number of faculty grew by a factor of 4. He established the Agricultural Experiment Station, the School of Journalism. He expanded the College of Engineering, as well as many other faculties in this university. But his key goal was to ensure that research, that innovation would be beneficial to the citizens of Missouri. And that continues here today. And so we have not lost that focus on research. We know that we need to redouble our efforts because we are a research university. And as a research university, we have a set of expectations established by the state of Missouri and expectations that our colleagues around the country have on us for us to deliver on the research promise, whether it's in philosophy and the arts or in quantum physics. So that is something that we are very passionate about, and we will grow our investments in that area.
That's a great question, and I really appreciate Dr. Burnett asking that. It reminds me, and one of the things I know, just having spent some time with you over the last couple of years, is, you know, one of the things I have to believe that you've missed the most is you really draw a lot of energy off of engagement and being out and about and being in different places, and you haven't been able to do that as much over the last year or so. And whether it's with our extension operations all around the state or with its alumni chapters, both in and out of state, wherever that may be, or visit with parents, students. I mean, you are the Energizer Bunny in a lot of ways. You go a lot of places. And so how have you channeled that energy? And I guess my point is you haven't been able to kind of share some of those messages to a lot of those folks. So if you were to give them kind of a quick and dirty on the state of their university because you haven't been in their space to tell them that, what would you say to them at this point about where we're at and where we're going?
Yeah, I miss that engagement so much. I miss it so much. I can't wait until we have herd immunity. But university is doing really well, and our research is at all-time high level. Our total research this past year exceeded $340 million. And our graduation rate, the key measure for student success, is at 73%, and that's the highest in our history. And the graduation rates for Pell students and African-American students stands at 62%. All of these averages are significantly higher than the national average. But we're at MIZZOU. We're not satisfied. I want to see those numbers jump up at least 10 points in each of those categories. Because while we love our students, we want them to graduate and graduate on time so that they can put their education and training to use as productive citizens. Graduating from the University of Missouri is key. For students that step foot as freshmen, first-time college students in 2014, 85% of those students graduated. 73% at the University of Missouri, 12% decided that they wanted to transfer to another university. That's okay. Students have choices and options, but they graduated. And that number is the highest in the state of Missouri among public universities. So many great things. And I don't know who asked that question, but I wish you can come and see the commitment of our faculty and staff who come to work each and every day because they know how important their work is to the education of their students, as well as research that sustains our society and that engagement. And so the university is in great shape and it's improving each and every day. So come see us.
I love it. It goes back to, a faculty and staff being committed to that mission, right? And how important that is, and that you mentioned earlier. So before we get to a little bit of a speed round fun thing here at the end, I want to ask you about athletics. We haven't talked about that a lot in terms of they've had a big pivot this year, and I know Jim Sturk and his crew have done a fantastic job, I think, in terms of all the challenges they've had overall. It was a fun football season, basketball season. I think you're making a trip tomorrow over to Indianapolis to watch our Tigers in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So give me some thoughts about athletics and how things are going with the Tigers.
Extremely well. Well, let's talk about football. I mean, Coach Drake. I mean, can you find another person with so much energy, passion, and sincerity? And he's got the team playing well. And I've seen a couple of practices that they had at Faroe Field. They're ready. They're ready to take on the top teams in the SEC. And when it comes to basketball, Coach Martin, I was at the Illinois game. Illinois was ranked higher than us, but, I'm a graduate of Illinois, so that pains me a little bit. But, Illinois folds when they see the Tigers. And I know that they're the first seed, but if we face Illinois in Indianapolis, I know we're going to win. And Coach Martin has done a wonderful job with his seniors. And we're going to miss those seniors, but I hope some of them do stay around. Maybe they can go for a graduate degree afterwards. But whether it's softball, baseball, wrestling, tennis, swimming and diving, volleyball, our student athletes make us really proud. And you know who else make us proud? Marching band, marching MIZZOU. They practiced so much, but they couldn't actually play in the stadium. But that did not diminish their enthusiasm. So we're very proud of them as well.
Yeah, that was one of the striking things for that first football game when I got there. It was obviously a different view, and but just to hear, the fight song live, I hadn't heard that in so long because of everything that shut down. It really it's pretty emotional, honestly. You just hadn't heard it quite like that. So really? I'm glad you said that about all of our sports because it's been a great diversion through what we've lived through, but also what they've had to go through to be able to perform and just get to seasons and get to games. Really amazing leadership effort by Jim and his team over there.
Cross country and track. I don't think I missed anyone. I don't think we have a curling team, so I think we're good.
Hey, let's do a quick speed round here as we kind of wrap up. And again, appreciate your time so much. So this is a fun little thing we like to do with all of our guests. So favorite MIZZOU tradition, what would be on your list from that perspective?
Homecoming, of course. Homecoming.
I like it. That's a good one for sure. We're the best at it. It's the first. We do it really well. All right, so this is a good advice category here. So your favorite or some of your favorite places. I won't make you pick one because I know you got to keep a lot of people happy. Some of your favorite places to get a bite to eat in Columbia. What would you recommend?
I love Buches, of course. I like Canteen 44. I have sushi, Gina Yu. I mean, I enjoy my food. And so if you need a restaurant recommendations, come to me. And tonight, after this, I'm going to CC's Broiler. What can be better than that?
Wow, that's pretty good. I should have scored the invite for that one. That sounds like a great trip after this. Great spot in all those places. Buches, I think, is leading the way, by the way, with the most of our guests. And my wife and I just enjoyed Canteen 44 last week. Your favorite landmark when you walk across campus and get to see things. What strikes out to you in terms of the landmark here on campus?
It's Jesse Hall because I can see it from anywhere in town, and it seems like no matter where I am in town, I could see the tip of Jesse Hall, and it's just a reminder of how important this university that's exemplified by this beautiful historic building. And that's where my office is. And I spend quite a bit of time here too.
Well, and this week the dome is lit green, right?
That's right. For St. Patty's Day and for engineers, because St. Patrick was a patron saint of engineers. I don't know why, but yeah.
One of the great traditions. It's fun to see the light the dome in the fall gold when we win games, and now we light the dome green in the spring for engineering week. It's fun. And the final one, when we get back to more of an in-person situation, more of a normal thing, what are some events that you're really excited to be back in full force? What are you looking forward to, especially since we've been without it for a little while?
Tiger Walk.
Yeah.
And go into the classrooms and making the announcement for the Kemper Teaching Awards. Yeah. Or just stopping students on their way to class and ask about their experiences, where they're from, and what we can do better as a university. Just those small moments make it worthwhile. And I can't wait for the fall term to start. And I can't wait for commencement coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah, we had a little face-to-face event last week that you joined us for with our MIZZOU 39 students. It was first face-to-face event we've had in a while. I've been kind of on a buzz ever since because I just was able to have that interaction, right, that you haven't had overall. So we're looking forward to all those things returning. Now, I understand, and several people, by the way, either text or emailed me today. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow's a special day for you, if I understand right. Is that correct?
Tomorrow is the day that I turn I can't say, well, yeah, I'll say it. It's 57. I can't believe it. But you know what this old man's going to do? You see that moped back there?
Yeah.
I'm going to be racing that moped against the helmet cam at a football game. And we're going to raise money, and the top fundraiser, student fundraiser, will get that scooter. And
I love that
scooter. Paulo Blarto, after Paul Blart, the mall cop.
So when is this race going to happen?
I just got notified today by athletics. It'll be sometime in the fall, and I'm too old to sprint, and so I'm going to use my moped.
I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I hope it's a happy day for you, and I hope the Tigers can get you some wins this weekend as part of it.
Yeah.
I want to just thank you again, not only for joining us tonight, but for your leadership. I just know how engaged you are with our alumni and donor and friends base, and you're missing that interaction that we like to have with our events and activities, and we can't wait to get back to it. And so thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'll join you again. I'll leave you with a picture or video of my office. You can see I have the gold chairs, and please stop by. I'm in 105 Jesse Hall, and it's meant to be enjoyed with students, alums, and faculty and staff.
Well, I tell you what, before you go, let me do a few quick promos. I'm going to come back to you and have you finish off a cheer you'll probably know, okay? So as we go into the next phase, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, all the folks, alums, and around the country and around Missouri. We've got some great MIZZ talks coming up. In fact, next week, Dr. J.D. Bowers, who's the director of our Honors College here at MIZZOU, is going to join me. And he's not just going to talk Honors College. JD is a barbecue aficionado. So we're going to talk about barbecue, and we know how big a deal that is in Missouri. We're also going to talk about how he's able to bring that in the classroom and help propel forward his Honors College students. So join me next Thursday evening for a talk with JD. As a reminder, we mentioned it earlier, that's right, March Madness, Saturday night. Make sure you are in front of your TV and you're watching Coach Martin and his Tigers take on an old Big 8 and Big 12 foe, the Oklahoma Sooners. We owe them a beatdown, frankly, and so hopefully the Tigers play well and get a win in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And then we're going to take a week off for spring break for MIZZ Talks, and we'll be back. We're about to announce a really cool April lineup with a lot of great guests. I don't know if they're going to compare to what we had tonight, but they're going to be great guests, and we look forward to reaching out to you and joining us in April. So you can always check out a full calendar of our events, our virtual events at mizzou.com/MIZZ Talks. So until then, let's go Tigers this weekend. And on behalf of the MIZZOU Alumni Association, I'll kick it to the president, MIZZ.
ZOU. Let's win Saturday.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Have a great night.